Welcome to Peaceful Oasis Live, where we say unwind and transform your mind. I'm David.
I'm Tamara. So good to see everybody. And tonight we're going to be talking about, are you making your diagnosis your identity? So our guest, Sharon Sayler, is going to help us figure that out and what to do with that.
The following program is presented by Loving Meditations.
Unwind and transform your mind with Peaceful Oasis Live, the concert series hosted by Tamara Green and David Dashinger of Loving Meditations. Masters of mindfulness, music, and storytelling transport you into a state of deep relaxation through soulful conversations, calming meditations, and expansive music, all brought to you live. View past episodes and sign up to get upcoming events and inspirations delivered to your inbox at peacefuloasislive.com. We appreciate you, our viewers, supporting our mission for peace and calm. And we're back. Let me talk about our wonderful guest, Sharon Sayler. So since 2015, Sharon Sayler, a board-certified health and wellness being coach, has been dedicated to inspiring hope and help for those with autoimmune conditions. Her struggles to find answers and make meaning from her own autoimmune experience manifested into her highly regarded show called the Autoimmune Hour. Sharon is passionate about helping others turn the word survivor into thriver. Love that. It is all about living well regardless of your diagnosis. And let's bring on Sharon. Hello, Sharon.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
Sharon.
It's so good to have you on. Very exciting.
I'm thrilled. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah. You've done so many amazing things. I'm just going to say it right from the get-go. You have a show, the Autoimmune Hour, which is rocking it. And how long have you had that show now?
We just passed 350 episodes. So 7 years.
7 years.
That is a long time in the podcast world.
Yeah. And it's it's a really exceptional show. Just exceptional. So
thank you. Thank you. I so enjoy it. The community is amazing. And when I think about all the different things we've talked on the show, this one, the topic that we chose for here is one of the most important lessons I learned during my trip from diagnosis to thriver.
Yeah, tell us about your journey and what you just said there, because that's pretty fascinating. What is your condition and how long and all that?
In early 2014, things weren't quite right, but you go to the doctor, your blood work is normal, all of that kind of stuff. And I don't know about some of the audience, but maybe they've heard this phrase, women your age. Please don't say that to people.
Any doctors out there, don't say that.
Well, anyone. But anyway, and it was dismissed. All my, I'll say my complaints were dismissed. And I was teaching in a different state. So I had flown in the night before, got in late. It was just a horrific flight, crawled into bed really late, woke up the next morning having to go give my training, and I couldn't move my legs. Now, I was not paralyzed. The interesting thing was I could feel my legs. I just had no energy, no ability to move them. And that was terrifying. But I was able to, when you travel and you're a corporate trainer type, you learn to sort of muscle through. Now, in hindsight, I don't suggest that, but at the time I did. And I was able to stand and sort of force myself to walk and all of that. Within 24 hours, I was covered from head to my knees with hives.
Oh, boy.
So at that time, I said, okay, I went to a urgent care type of place. They assured me that they didn't know what it was, gave me all sorts of antihistamines, and assured me it wasn't contagious. So I got on a flight, terrified half the flight crew, and flew home. And a doctor I'd been seeing for about a year, getting all of those sorts of things of really going, maybe, but not quite, came into the room, and I could just tell from the body language it wasn't going to be good.
Okay.
I'm really on a mission now as well to help people understand how to give bad news, because not the way I received it. How's that?
Right.
And she looked at me and said, I forgot something. She came back in with another doctor I'd never met. They kind of made eye contact, nodded at each other. He left the room, and she proceeded to give me the bad news in such a way that it was literally terrifying. She went into all the terrifying stats, and my ears went closed when I heard the word, you have dermatomyositis. Now, guys, that could have been supercalifragilistic. It meant nothing to me. And, to this day, I still struggle to spell it. So it's like, what are you going to do? So that was my entry into being told of what my diagnosis was. And it was traumatic. And I think this is really the early stages of where people can get confused between a diagnosis and all of a sudden hearing the words you have, my goodness, that can just implant on somebody's identity if you're not careful.
Right. And it certainly has that effect, whether it's autoimmune or cancer diagnosis. Hearing the doctor say those words, in our case, all I heard was cancer. Somehow I never heard the stage 4 part. And weeks later, I think Tamara said, yeah, he said stage 4 cancer. I'm like, you kidding? Never heard that part. So doctors are such powerful figures in our culture, and them making this proclamation about our health in this very vulnerable moment has this profound, almost traumatic effect on us that can be long lasting.
If you take it to heart, you do. Because my other background is in communications and body language, plus I can get a little mouthy. All I said during that time was, thank you. And she kept saying, but you don't understand, and went into more stats and more dire consequences. And no, I understand. And she never understood this next part, but I hope you guys do, because I said to her, look, I do understand. I don't know what that word means, but I could have cockroaches. So you just said I have cockroaches, okay? But that doesn't mean I want them. That doesn't mean I'm going to own them, okay? That's where I'm putting what you just said, is over there with, okay, that's in my life, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay, right?
Yeah.
That's where I put things like, spiders and all that other stuff. Okay, yes, I see that in the house, but it's not staying. That's where I put the diagnosis. And too often when what I like to call white coat authority, keeps coming back, because it can be anybody in your healing process. It doesn't just have to be doctors, nurses, any sort of staff, pharmacists, any sort of caregiver, really. And you have. And that's when it just becomes a label that people begin to say, that's my identity.
Wow.
And that's where we have to be careful, because once it becomes your identity and you become walking around from that place of I am unwell or something like that. Oh, cancel clear. We don't want to say that, right? We just don't want to say that. We want to make sure that we're always talking in the positive, because the unconscious mind believes it's completely literal. And so if we say those things in the negative, unfortunately, we can start to manifest it.
I love that you're looking at the languaging of it, both externally and internally.
Right.
And what are some of the alternatives? If we could tell a doctor, don't say this, say this, what would you suggest?
I would tell them the cockroaches story. Humor always works well. So you could say to the doctor, thank you. I understand what you're saying is important. However, I don't want to make, XYZ my identity. I'm going to tell you a little story about how, I eradicated scary bugs from my house. And that's where I'm placing this diagnosis. Can we play that game together? Or can we talk that way about it because I don't want it to be my identity? Now, the doctor may look at you cross-eyed, roll their eyes at you. Don't worry about that, because the rolling eyes is a safety thing for the most part. When somebody rolls their eyes, they're not feeling safe. They don't know what to do. And when someone talks to their doctor at that level, human to human, instead of up and down, because, when you're getting a diagnosis, you're usually down and somebody's usually talking up, when you can talk human to human and have an agreed upon way to talk about the diagnosis where they know you get it, you get the seriousness of it, and yet you prefer to make sure that it doesn't become your identity, a whole new game. Your medical team starts to coalesce, and they understand that you take it seriously and that you will do whatever's prescribed, but it has to be delivered in a way that treats you as a whole human being.
Right. And so for the doctors that are listening, how would they change the actual language around, instead of you have blah, 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 they could say something like,
third person, the diagnosis is.
Okay.
The name of the condition is. Whenever we can talk in third person, it's really helpful. And please don't start with stats. One of the stats with my diagnosis is that 80% of people within the first 5 years have some malignancy.
Okay.
Wow, let's just embed that in there, okay? I mean, 80%, that's a big number. I'm absolutely blessed. I was part of the 20%, absolutely blessed. But let's not embed those things in there. People don't have to know all of that nitty gritty. Let them hear, like, David, you said your ears went closed at the word cancer, and Tamara was the one who was able to hear the rest of it. My ears went closed at dermatomyositis. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know if I should be scared.
Exactly. Yeah. So it sounds to us, Sharon, that you never took on the identity of this diagnosis. Right from the get-go.
It was a struggle. Even with all of my training, I have to be honest, there were days that I did.
Yeah.
It was very painful. Dermatomyositis, you begin to peel your skin. So, and humor helps. I know when it was at its height, all total, I lost about 60% of my skin, not all at once, but 60% of my body peeled at some point in time. So, humor helps. I would say things to the doctors, and whether they find it funny or not didn't bother me. I'd say, hey, look, free laser peel. It felt good to say things like that.
Or aren't I appealing?
Yeah, exactly.
And it probably makes it easier for them as well as you, right? It's really taking some of the tension and, gravity out of the situation, which doctors, bless them, are faced with, illness day in and day out. And it's a heavy thing to deal with. And the sense that they're the, people looking to them for the answers and for the solutions. So to be able to lighten it up like that is a beautiful gift for you and for them.
Well, you would think so. You would think so. But what I found, and once they realized it was safe and I wanted them to laugh, it was okay. But many of them were momentarily horrified. They didn't know if they had permission to laugh because, oh my goodness, this person, look at her, my goodness, they just didn't know if that was okay. And once I said, guys, you gotta laugh at it. There's nothing else to do. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll laugh along with her and it's okay. But sometimes you have to give your medical people grace because they see so much horror, and a lot of people don't appreciate that because they feel like you're laughing at me. But really, when you can lighten it up and say things like, hey, free laser peel, they're like, oh, I'm laughing with her, not at her. Big difference.
Wonderful. And when we come back, we're going to, you're going to be doing this amazing process, and I'm going to be asking you a question about that to set up that process. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
The doctor told me the answer, and now my head is spinning. He said I'm leaving with cancer, and my journey is just beginning. I'm stressed out and afraid. I have cried and I have prayed. Time to quiet my mind and be still. Take a deep breath and just chill. I put in my earbuds and decompress. Touch play on the app to ease my stress. I'm choosing peaceful relaxation with loving meditations. I'm loving meditations.
And we're back with the wonderful Sharon Sayler. Two things before we go into the process to get really concrete. How does somebody know that they are making their diagnosis their identity? What do they need to look out for?
How they talk about it, but more important, how they think about it. How they talk about it is very symptomatic of exactly what they're thinking about it. Okay. So if your life centers around this diagnosis, yeah, for a time it is going to center around it. Medical appointments, caregiving, it has to center around it. But it's in your thinking about it. I love that commercial we just saw. Living with instead of I am or I have. Just even those words are pretty amazing. I'm thriving through is another favorite of mine. I'm thriving through cancer. I'm thriving through autoimmune. I'm on an you probably read as you read in the bio, it said autoimmune experience. And people oftentimes go, why don't you just say you have a disease? Well, because that sort of implies ownership to me. So whatever we can do to check in with ourselves. Mm-hmm. I love loving meditations because we can go inside and wander around and find all those little nooks and crannies that maybe just need a little sweeping out. Like, gosh, is that an ownership statement or is that an eradication statement?
Yeah. And is this what you mean by mind tricks and what the process is really going to be addressing? But right, because you talk about mind tricks, don't you?
Oh, I'm such a word nerd. And I love mind tricks. One of the favorite ones that Sarah Payton from the wonderful book called Your Resonant Self, and it's all about self-talk. She and I just did a podcast on this about a year ago, and I was blown away. Consider the words, I am angry at, or I am angry that. Wow, really important. I am angry at, it could be a person, place, or thing, or even, oh my goodness, really identity, your life. Mm-hmm. Or I am angry that this is happening in my life. Really big difference just in that simple at or that part of the phrase. Mm-hmm. And your mind takes those two statements very differently. Yeah. Even though the anger part, sure, we can be angry. That's part of our identity too. Sure, we can be upset and angry. But even just being very careful at how we talk to ourselves can change the whole outcome of survivor to thriver.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. And this wonderful meditation you're going to be doing with us is called I Wonder.
Favorite two words. My favorite two words for healing, guys. This is just when I learned the idea of I wonder, think about when we want to learn anything, do anything, the important parts to do, and you see children do this all the time, creativity and imagination. And the words I wonder, when our unconscious brain hears that, it can just go back to those times of playfulness, and it's okay to play. It's okay to be silly. It's okay just to do whatever you want. And wow, when your unconscious mind is unleashed to heal your body through play and creativity and imagination, wow, amazing things happen. So the words I wonder, powerful.
Just saying those words when I said, "I wonder," really something does begin to open. You're stepping into a kind of a state of allowance or opening. There's an opening to just even saying those 2 words, so it's powerful.
It's amazing. I would love everybody just to say out loud right now, I wonder.
I
Wonder.
wonder. I love it.
Doesn't it kind of like, woo, that feels good.
Yeah, it really does have a feel-good feeling to it. So let's do it. I'm very excited about this.
Lovely. Take all the time you need in the next moment or two to settle in. That's right. Find your favorite spot. That's right. Your cozy spot. That's right. You know the spot. You've been here before. Yes. And just wiggle around, relaxing from your head to your toes, getting all snuggled in. That's right. As you begin to look around, oh, I see beautiful pink and purple clouds. I wonder what floating on those clouds would be like. Ooh. That's right. So cozy, soft and supporting. That's right. As I continue to look around, I see my favorite colors dancing over there, smiling at me, smiling back, taking a nice deep breath and relaxing deeper. As I continue to wonder, that's right. As I continue to wonder, I notice a cool breeze floating over me, gently, comfortable, continuing to settle deeper and deeper. That's right. And from this place of comfort, I take a nice deep breath and let it go. As I inhale, I wonder, what are those entrancing smells? I'm noticing my favorite smells playing along the gentle wind as I see my favorite colors. I wonder. Delightful that we all play together here in my favorite, safe, cozy spot. Always being held gently here. I wonder what else can happen here. Taking a nice deep breath. I begin to look around, giving myself permission to create the exact space I need with all the grace and presence I want. I wonder how overflowing it is, delightful, entrancing, as I continue to breathe deeper. I wonder. That's right. What deliciously delightful thing awaits me next? My favorite colors are here. My favorite smells. I'm able to feel the comfort of the wind and the coziness of my spot. My eyes delight in this, my favorite spot. Breathing deeper, letting it all go as I continue to be held in comfort and peace here in my favorite spot. Oh, that's right. Drifting, joyfully playing, allowing my imagination to create what I want and need right now. Here with me right now. How delightful that it's come to visit. Oh, the laughter, the curiosity, the playfulness. The permission I have here. I know deep down and throughout my whole being, I can come back to this spot anytime I want. I just have to close my eyes and I will be here in my favorite spot. I know that as I begin to come back to the present moment, I can take all of this and more with me any place I go, having it with me at all times, powerfully connected to my favorite spot, this safe spot, this spot of I wonder, of bliss, of comfort, permission, and creativity. As I begin to breathe deeper on the exhale, I take everything I need in this moment and into the future as I begin to come back to the present moment. That's right. Slowly opening my eyes. That's right. Comfort comes with me as I welcome myself back, full of wonder and grace to the present moment. Welcome back. For myself as well. I think I'm going to get a sip of my tea here. Nothing like drinking something to bring us back to the present moment, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I wonder why I feel so floaty, like a cloud. I mean, really, it's as if I actually imagined myself laying on the most comfortable, cushy cloud.
Wonderful.
And I was just drifting, and everything looked, smelled, tasted, what I was hearing, it was like brand new because I was coming from a place of kind of curiosity, and it was just exciting. It was so fascinating.
Thank you.
And I can just imagine if you're actually doing that after you've been diagnosed with some kind of medical condition and start saying, I wonder, why are you here? Or I wonder, these are profound conversations to have.
They are. And the powerful part about this kind of meditation, this kind of drifting, is that when you're doing it on an exam table or in a chair or any of those places, there are often colors that are, let's say, drab green, creepy beige.
We had 1980s mauve,
Yeah.
and gray.
Those interesting combinations of pink and gray and purple, maybe.
Yeah. And then we won't have to talk about the smells, but I love adding those in because as we begin to transform, we'll say those smells, with smells that delight us, that beckon us from childhood, and things so those smells, I love that we have the power to transform those smells into smells that delight us. Whether that smells, we don't have to get in the technicalities of it because our mind is so powerful that all of a sudden the smell will become chocolate chip cookies or pizza or lavender, which is my grandchild's favorite smell. So, it's amazing.
For me, it was lemon. I smelled fresh because when I was growing up, we had all these different citrus trees in California. And I would pick a lemon and I would scratch the rind and just smell it. And then as soon as I literally smelled the lemon when you said that. And then I saw the blossoms of the lemon tree and then the leaves and then the limb. And then pretty soon I'm looking at the whole tree. I'm visualizing all of this. The mind is so amazing and powerful.
I just delight in it. I'm always amazed because as your story shows that your mind takes you where you want to go. Yeah. Your playground will not be my playground, but they're all delightful playgrounds. So there's no judging in our playgrounds because it's all a place of wonder, and amazing things happen when we allow wonderful things to fill our wonder-filled, put a little hyphen there, our wonder-filled places. I just think it's powerful when we allow ourselves to run and play for a while.
Well, one thing that you mentioned, and I think it's so important, and it's part of what we do too, is to make this accessible when you're in the doctor's office or in a stressful situation or in a situation where you wouldn't think typically you could do a meditation or being, kind of use your imagination. But those are actually the most important times to be able to do that, to have a different experience, right?
Absolutely. I recently had to go to the dentist, and I think a lot of us might have put that off, but I try to get my cleanings right. And I have to tell you, the anxiety was a little high. I trusted the office. It wasn't that, but still there was anxiety about that. And then they say, take off your mask. And you're like, you're right there. You're like a foot from my face there. And so anxiety. And I did my I wonder meditations. And I was not out, but I was in a different place. And during that whole time, I was able to keep myself calm and breathing. And she actually had to touch me. Said, okay, I'm done now, to bring me back to the present moment. But otherwise, I imagine I would have been high breathing, and all sorts of runaway trains, would have been happening. So,
Yes.
even in things where we're saying, okay, it's not the diagnosis, it's just every day now, being able to go to our wonder-filled place is really important, because, gosh, even if somebody gets too close to you in the checkout line, who knows? It could be anything that you just escape there.
I went to the dentist yesterday, and I was, the thing that bothers me about the drilling the most is the very high-pitched sound. I think my ears are so sensitive to that. So I started I was actually getting curious about my breath. So I was, I didn't know if the dentist or the hygienist could see me, but I was filling up my diaphragm and then filling up the kind of middle section. Then I was filling the top of my lungs. And I was just so focused on, that, I can feel my belly expanding with my diaphragm. And it really was an exercise in curiosity on, can I do it? And then that feels interesting. And oh my gosh, I'm feeling so relaxed.
You made it into a game.
Yeah, I did.
And so the little ones inside you started playing the game and said, oh, yes, that, as you began, I know those noises and that, I don't know about you, but the dentist smell when we don't get to drilling.
Or taste.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, whenever we can allow the little ones inside us to make anything, our breathing, even the sound, okay, what can we sing along to that noise? Anything like that, we can turn it into play. It becomes so much easier.
Yeah.
Another situation where this would be perfect, and I'll preface it by saying there's firefighters I've worked with who have admitted that they couldn't hack being inside of an MRI machine. These are guys that would run into a burning building or pull people out of a car wreck, but couldn't hack that because of the claustrophobic effect of it. But in fact, this kind of technique, Sharon, and other ones where you can sort of overcome the fear and anxiety by, having an experience, an internal experience, can really get us through some of those super stressful, intrusive medical procedures.
MRIs are so loud. I don't know about you guys, but even with the headset, it's like, wow. And I took my crew, my inside crew, we went bowling because I didn't know what else to do with that noise.
That's great.
What else do you do with that noise? So, inside we're bowling out there in my favorite spot, man. Sure, we got a bowling alley. Why don't you have a bowling alley?
I love that.
It's so cool. I mean, there's so much you can do with your imagination, and I love that you have that direction to go in, and it's a choice, right? You're making that choice in the moment. I could stress out, and this could be a total bummer, where I can play and actually make something much more, positive out of it. So that's.
And please just let it go, because I didn't know, Sharon, didn't know we were going bowling until it started. And then all of a sudden, someone in there decided bowling. So there are no rules, okay, when we're doing this. If one of your little parts of you suggests something, it sounds good, run with it.
Exactly. I love it. Well, we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back. And we're back with Sharon Sayler. And so we've talked about the mind tricks, what the mind is saying, right? And how to help that by being very curious, I wonder. But I'm very curious because you talked about body language.
So powerful, so powerful. I had a friend one time, he's still around, so I shouldn't say one time. He's still my friend. How's that? That sounded weird, didn't it? Anyway, I have this friend. One time he came to me and he was saying things like, oh, I'm feeling so beaten down. I am just feeling so beaten down. And luckily it wasn't a scary diagnosis. It was just, something going on in his life at the moment. And I remember when I saw him walk in, my first thought was, I remember him taller. And yet out of his mouth comes this, I'm feeling so beaten down. Another friend of mine was talking about how her business is off balance and her life is out of balance, etc. And what was happening in her life is she had actually broken her ankle a little bit before that. And somehow this idea of being off balance with the broken ankle was beginning to play out as if everything was off balance. Isn't that, I'm always amazed at the runaway places things can happen with our mind by using she would talk about how hard it was to walk. She was always off balance, hobbling along on her crutches, things like that. And unfortunately, this term off balance was taken too literally by her unconscious mind, and other things in her world became out of balance. Yeah. It's fascinating. So understanding that's talking about things, but notice how the guy's body language, when he stood up tall, I remember you being taller. And so all of a sudden he said, oh, okay. And he stood up, and within a couple of minutes he goes, you're right. I'm feeling better. Not perfect, but he got the connection. If you're feeling beaten down, stand up. Really, what's your posture doing? My Aunt Myrtle would have put a book on my head, but that's a different story. Anyway, and then my friend with the broken ankle, now there wasn't a lot she could do about it other than change her speech pattern about it because, it's in the cast. But we were very careful when it came out of the cast that she did her self-talk around how that leg and that ankle were as strong as her other leg, and they were now walking in balance, and that it had been corrected. And so we were making sure that the unconscious mind and the conscious mind knew that part of the body was healed. And that's important. I know it sounds weird, but do that self-talk to yourself, because your body will play out what you tell it.
Yeah.
And there's three phrases that come to mind that I think are very common, and I'm certainly guilty of using them. One is, pain in the butt. Another one is, yes. I'm pissed off.
Or neck.
Yeah, right.
Pain in the neck.
I'm pissed off, and there's, I'm sick of this, which all three of those can have certain ramifications, right? In terms of, internalizing or even making this show up in the body.
Oh, yes. True story about me. Okay, I'm going to tattle on myself. A few years ago, I was complaining about a shoulder pain. And I went to a longtime massage therapist, physical therapist, friend of mine, complaining, you got to do something with the shoulder. You got to do something with the shoulder. Now, she knows me really well, so she has permission to say whatever enters her mind. And she said, well, she works my shoulder a little bit. She goes, well, if you'd take that knife out of your back, you'd probably be fine. And because not only is she working on my shoulder, I'm mentioning a little bit of upsetness I'm having with someone in my life. And she said, it's manifesting in your shoulder. And she was right. The minute I visualized the metaphorical knife in my back, I metaphorically went into my meditations, removed it, blessed the person, blessed my shoulder, and let it all go. Haven't had any problem with my shoulder since.
Isn't that something?
Now, I'm not saying that cures all shoulders, but it's something to consider.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our bodies, I love the way that our bodies are, they're not trying, they are communicating to us. It's are you going to listen, explore about what's really going on?
Absolutely. We hold traumas from childhood on up, and oftentimes through the idea of ancestral traumas as well, learned traumas through our family or in our cultural line. And some of my most profound healing came from the autoimmune condition when I began to explore all of the traumas I've held in my body for a long period of time and letting them go. Now, I know I'm making that sound so simple in the short period of time we have. It wasn't that, I mean, it was doable, absolutely doable. I wanted to do it. And each time I found something and released it, I felt better and better. So it's a self-motivating. But it's all about giving, just understanding that grace. And I wanted to share just a quick little quote, if I can. It's all about I wonder. I wonder what it would feel like as I create the space, grace, and permission to respond to whatever is presented to me without any force or resistance.
Wow.
That's one of my favorite mantras. It's just, I wonder.
Yeah.
It's an I wonder statement about going through life without force or resistance.
Mm-hmm.
That's different than giving up, by the way. Some people say, oh, sure, it sounds like you're giving up. It's not. It's not. It's about meeting it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the same of, allowance. You're just being with it. Yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. Boy, I love this conversation we're having. How do people, what do you offer and how do people find you?
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. For this type of work, the quickest place is understandingautoimmune.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's, you'll find the 350 plus episodes of the show. And we cover everything from the physical experts, doctors, researchers on autoimmune. And then we also talk to trauma experts. We've had you guys on sharing the wonderful things about meditation and the powerful mindfulness techniques that are important to healing. And oh my gosh, we even have had people on talking about mold, or removing mold from your house and how that could be healing, and getting rid of toxic chemicals from your home. So it runs the whole gamut. So if you're saying, well, Sharon, I don't have autoimmune, I want to say you probably know someone who does, similar to cancer. Unfortunately, really unfortunately, but there are over 100 plus types of autoimmune now. And I'm no expert in it, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, I think they're going to find that long COVID will have to be treated similar to autoimmune. Now, I'm no expert in that, but I just listen to all the symptoms and I go, wow, those are so similar to so many autoimmune conditions. So I encourage people to go over to Understanding Autoimmune. If you know a guest, to go up there into the nav, hit Be a Guest. If you want anything else, just, contact us is over there as well. And you can also find it on iHeart, Spotify, Om Times Radio, as well as YouTube. And find us on the social media at Understanding Autoimmune too.
Wonderful. In a couple of minutes we have left, I wonder about your longevity doing podcasts, because most people do it maybe a year and they just peter out. They just, they lose the momentum or lose the interest or something. You've done a phenomenal number of shows. Like what, give us an idea of the arc of all that. Like, how do you sustain it?
And award-winning, by the way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. There have been times I've been wondering, why am I doing this? There are times I am the show, and for better or for worse, I am the show, and doing everything from getting the guests, etc. Mm-hmm. And always in those moments, the universe opens up, and one comes to me from about 2.5, 3 years ago. I got an email from a woman in Australia. She was a mom, had a young child who had been diagnosed with a condition called PANS, P-A-N-S. And it's also known as pandas. They're a little dissimilar, but they're manifest the same. And it is where a infection, typically a strep infection, has crossed the blood-brain barrier, and all sorts of things like OCD and other mental health issues appear in your normal child. All of a sudden, you wake up one morning, and all of a sudden they have these bizarre behaviors. She asked me to get a hold of someone in her, an author of Saving Sammy. And it was so wonderful that I got a hold of the author, Beth Mahoney. She came on the show, and we were able to answer this woman's questions, her very important questions about saving her own child. And it still brings a tear to my eye that then okay, this is all worth it. Absolutely, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's entirely possible for a radio show, TV show, or podcast to be of high service to people in this world and in our communities. And it's such a powerful tool when you use it in that way. So kudos to you for doing it for such an amazing long run and having so many guests and sharing so much important information.
It's a lifeline to probably, hundreds of thousands of people out there. So
thank you. It's actually a lifeline for me too. It keeps me going. It keeps me wanting to learn more.
Well, that's the thing about being of service, right? It really is. It's great for many others, but it sure is good for us.
It is. When we can make meaning of things that we don't understand, instead of getting stuck in why me or poor me or this is this is my life now kind of thing. When we can make meaning of it, it's so powerful.
Wow. Well, I wonder if you would ever want to come back and be our guest again.
Absolutely. I've had a fun time. I love playing with you guys. I'll come to your playground anytime.
Yeah. We got to go bowling in the MRI machine too. That would be
absolutely.
That sounds perfect. Well, thank you for joining us, Sharon. It was just delightful, and we want to invite all of you to come back 2 weeks from tonight, which is November 17th, where Jim Carrey, affectionately known as Uncle Jim.
And it's not the comedian, but someone who is equally as full of charisma and great stories.
Oh my gosh, wonderful. Yeah. And he talks about how telling your trauma stories can actually heal your past. So we'll see you next time. And in the meantime, enjoy yourself. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.